Greetings everyone, this is probably a video that you didn't expect, but something I wanted to do for a really long time, or like something along these lines. But there's a chance that you haven't seen me before, so let me introduce myself a little. I'm Honzius and an artist trying to make an own webcomic very slowly, and sometimes I make videos. These last years I was able to make such just sketchbook tours though, but I also made few animatics and have a long history of speed paint, so there's that. July is approaching, and with that my favorite time of year with it, which is art fight. So for this year I decided to remake reference sheets of my main characters. I would draw side characters too, but I don't want to get burned out before the event even starts, so main cast it is. About my favorite event and also ramble about my OCs along the way. And with that out of the way, let's get into it. So what is art fight? Well, if you haven't heard of it or haven't seen the hundreds of different videos made about art fight, it's basically an annual art rating game taking place in July each year. There are two different teams that you join with every year having a different team. For example, this year it's Seafoam versus. You draw a character of an user from opposite team, and depending on its complexity and effort you've put into it, you get points for your team. The other person can but doesn't have to revenge you, which means they'll draw your character. It isn't a rule, so don't be angry or mean if they don't. You can also attack your own teammates, which results in friendly fire. These used to be for like 0 points, but that later changed into like 20% less points than usual. But this event isn't really meant to be competitive, even though the team with most points wins. But winner team gets nothing, as the event is supposed to be fun, not a real competition. I hope I explained it well enough. It's a really great way to practice and make other people happy by drawing their characters while getting free art on the side. This is gonna be my 5th year. I participated for the first time in like 2020, and every person I've met there was super nice, and I've never really had a bad experience. The worst being last year where a certain troll attacked me, but it wasn't really a big deal and they got banned shortly after. There are lots of ways to go about attacks. Some do quantity over quality, some quality over quantity. Well, I try to do both, which no wonder I always get burned out halfway. Last year I managed to do 18, but I noticed people being able to produce like 60 attacks, which is crazy. I wouldn't really recommend that, not even my way. Your sanity and health matters, and you should always take breaks. Please don't work on that outside, touch grass, drink water, or eat properly. Maybe you can also draw something for yourself to make yourself happy. With some of the basics about art fight, let's talk a little bit about the drawing on the screen. This is my main protagonist. His name is Leo, and if you've seen my sketchbook tours, you probably have already seen all of these guys, but I've never really properly introduced them on my channel. I don't want to go into too much details, as I want to make a proper video or like videos about them and their world they live in, but I never managed to make the art for the video, so it hasn't happened yet, but I'm working on it. But basically he's the most outstanding guy in the whole crew. My story takes place in a fantasy Renaissance or Baroque era, so most of the characters are more muted and dull, but Leo on the other hand, well, he's a royalty. His color palette contains more shiny colors, which also sets well with his personality, or more like presentation. He's overall a happy-go-lucky kind of guy, but that isn't really the entirety of his personality, as he's really big people pleaser to the point of not showing his real emotions and over exaggerating his optimism. 2021 and I've been using it ever since. Not only is the art style very outdated, but also I wasn't really sure on his body type back then, nor was I really good in conveying it, so I think it misled lots of people who were drawing him on my side. So I wanted to improve on that. Also, while working on a script for this video, I actually made an animated icon with him as an updated profile picture for art fights, so that's awesome. The next drawing is actually Leo's twin sister, Francisca. I didn't want to change too much as I really like her original design, but I really wanted to show her more muscular build, which I'm not sure if I was able to convey well enough. She's very much an opposite to her brother despite being so close to him. They are both orphans, but when Leo got adopted to the royal family, Francisca was left alone with her own hardships. Luckily enough, they got reunited later in their adult years, so their childhood was very different, which reflects on their personality and view on the world. While Leo is naive, Fran is more cold and skeptical. She has her own goals and ambitions, but due to her work as a personal guide for her own brother, she isn't really able to fulfill them in a way she would like to. Of course, she could just abandon her position, but she feels a sense of and just accepts her fate in a way. Also, she knows that without her, Leo would be in constant trouble and danger as he usually acts without worrying about consequences and blindly trusts anything he sees or hears. So you started your art fight account. What can you do when it's not July yet? Well, first of all, you can't post attacks. Right now, as I'm checking, it's not even possible, but it would lead you to getting banned on the site as it destroys the whole purpose of art fights. So that's a big no-no. But you should submit your characters. I would recommend writing fewer informations about them, like their personality, maybe some unusual facts, and maybe a little of their backstory. Just anything that makes the person who's gonna draft the character easier to imagine, what type of person your character is for different ideas and etc. I cannot stress you enough how frustrated I usually am when I see a really cool design of a character I want to draw and there's not a single word about them. I don't know if it's just me, but even if you just paste a link to their ToyHouse, it's not enough. I do check it sometimes, but it's the extra step that makes some people discouraged and they rather go to some different character instead. I wouldn't also recommend writing an entire Wikipedia, and I say that as someone who was guilty of it. I got carried away sometimes when I get to write about my OCs. I want to write everything about them that there is, and that helps people picture them the way I do. But the cruel reality, no one's gonna read that. Okay, maybe someone will, but most people just gonna skip the yapping, either moving on or just improvise. It's true that when you're scrolling through different characters, you don't want to read novels about each one. Time is limited and most of it is just unnecessary details. Trust me, you don't need to write their entire story just for one drawing or different media. just enough to give a person an idea. What I like to do now is to write their place in the story, their personality, and maybe some relationships to the other characters. If the person is interested, I put a link to their ToyHouse page where I wrote all their backstory in more detail. I think this is the ideal balance to this problem. Maybe you can find a better way, but please don't leave a blank page. I'm begging you. Also, if you have your favorites that you want more out of, I would recommend putting them in front while your list in back. Some also put symbols to the name as it shows to other users your preferences. I don't do that, at least for now, but I do put featured character in my bio. Not only is it looks good there, but it also makes it easier for people to know exactly who I'm prioritizing most at the moment. But ironically, it works very well as people would draw nothing but that character with occlusion of different OC. It's like I'm suffering from success. It works maybe too well. Another thing I like to do on R5 before the event starts is scrolling and bookmarking characters. Bookmarking is a great way to keep track of characters you would like to attack. It's also a really nice activity. Just looking through different characters and their cool designs, maybe picturing a pose or an idea. Although lots of people recommend to bookmark not too long before art fight, maybe a week or two before, as it can happen people you bookmarked won't join in the current year, and then you bookmark a bunch of characters for nothing. But I still like to do it through the month of June or even May. It's just fun pastime activity and I get to see other people's cool OCs. Speaking of which, my next OC I drew a reference sheet for is my favorite cool stoned guy, Matthew. Similar to Leo, I made his ref sheet back in 2020. Although there wasn't too much I wanted to change, I just wanted to make his outfit more practical. Before the original, Matthew has gone through so many changes in his appearance and his whole role in the story. I mean, it's hard to believe that this guy is the same one who appeared in the Driftaway animatic back in 2019, for those who has seen it. Let's just say that despite not drawing him as often as I do some other OCs, he has stolen my heart over the years, writing his backstory and lore. But yeah, with only a few alterations, his designs stay basically the same. I just wanted to draw a brand new ref sheet for him. I would like to talk about him more, but most of his backstory and stuff is secretive, as it would destroy the entire point of his character. Hell, I would like to talk about him more. To give you some basics about the story I'm talking about, let me explain. So there are these two nations, Kingdom of Terigard or just Terigard, and Wisdom Empire. They were one big nation back then, but after some disagreements and conflict between East and West, it resolved into war and led to separation of the two opposing sides. 100 years later, a prince of Terigard, Leo, wants to reconnect these two nations once more, or more like stop another war that's potentially coming. Of course, no one believes him and he needs to rely on his sister's support. She doesn't believe him either. So in order to pursue his goal, he gathers a bunch of other people who are willing to help him with their own reasoning. With them, he creates this small organization called Peacekeepers. Ironically, even his own crewmates don't believe in his naive fantasy. They're mostly just there to play his game of adventures, or at least in the beginning. Later they all have reasons to stay and actually help the cause. There are monsters, there's magic, there are gay people, and of course there's elf racism. The real ingredients for a fantasy story. Also, another great way to let people know you're participating or discover if your favorite artists are participating as well is to fill out a card of your chosen team. You put your username there, feature characters or other information. It's a great way to connect with artists outside of the art fight, but you can then put it in your bio too. What I would also want to mention is that the website is run by a small team and some limited budget as they run on donations. Always the first few days the site is really slow as lots of people in the same time are using it to post. That's why it's recommended to bookmark characters you want to draw beforehand to prevent having to wait. Some people I noticed this year are making hit lists on Google Docs. That's also an efficient way to collect candidates for your attacks. You can meanwhile draw a while you wait for it to calm down a little. Please be patient and don't harass the admins. What I would also want to mention, before you draw someone's character, check their permissions first. Usually it's no Nusafava or gore, but everyone has different things they're comfortable with. Some people allow gender pens, some people don't. Some people want to see their OC in a ship, some people don't. It all depends on preferences, so check that out before you put work into something the person is uncomfortable with. It's also pretty common for some people to create mass attacks. Mass attack is an attack involving characters of like 10 plus people, usually not even related to each other. Some people don't mind this, but some don't want to be included, so you should respect that as well. And that's about it I have to say about Art Fight. If you have free time during July, I would highly recommend joining in. If you realize it's not something for you during it, that's totally fine, as you can stop anytime you want. There's no punishment and do what's fun for you. The first one I did is Eliza, which if you watch my two OC animatics you probably remember her. To be honest, I neglected her unintentionally to the point of people not even remembering her name, which is kinda sad, but I know I'm the one to blame. It's not even like I don't like her, I do. I just don't draw her as often as I should. And I think she's the most misunderstood character from my cast. Again, probably my fault, but whenever I talk about her with my friends and mutuals, she gets very mixed reactions of love and hate. I think she deserves more credit, but of course not until I actually publish the comic, right? I did change her design a little bit. Her original blue dress resembled, well, Eliza from Hamilton. I'm not gonna defend myself here. I then gave her a black dress, which actually was meant to be her outfit in the last part, but I drew her in it more often. But in the first part, I wanted her to have a lighter outfit to give her this innocent, pure appearance. And I just wanted her to look like a simple girl you will meet in a village back in the historic times. I basically mixed her original and newer outfit together, and honestly I like it. I think she looks very pretty in it. I also gave her freckles, which I then forgot to draw in the doodle sketches. I realized that besides my persona, which I'm also not really using now, no Aussie of mine has freckles, which upsets me because I have them IRL. Like, why don't I give them to my children? Well, okay, one of the side characters has them, but people are forgetting to draw them, me included. But besides that, I think I'm slowly building an emotional bond to her, which sounds horrible, but I wanna draw her and develop her more. After all I wrote into her lore, she deserves it. Honestly, I think the reason why people hate her so much is because the original animatics were both from Leslie's point of view. In his eyes, she betrayed him and humiliated him, but in her eyes, she did the only right thing in the situation she was in. I'm not saying she did nothing wrong, but she had no bad intentions. Again, I won't go into too much details because lots of it are spoilers, but not everything is as it seems. Next up was Felix, and I was pretty happy with his original design. The real issue I had was his sweater slash turtleneck, I don't know how it's exactly called. Despite looking good on him, it absolutely didn't fit in the world, and I wanted to change it for so long. But I still liked for him to have his neck sort of covered up. I think it gives him this closed-in shy look. So I instead gave him this scarf thingy. I think it fits in better and keeps the vibe I'm going for. What I also liked about his original design are his big old boots, so I wanted to keep that. I wanted him overall to wear oversized clothes as if it's something he inherited from his older siblings. Being the only minor in the main cast and probably my only minor OC I use, I have a soft spot for him, which doesn't mean I let him off so easily. I also gave him a bag, which I already drew him with few times before. I wouldn't say it's part of his official design, it was mostly just for the pose, but who knows, maybe he carries it around anyway? Thing I have to figure out still is his hair. I think I sometimes draw it too much looking like Leo's, but the thing is, Felix doesn't have or shouldn't have curls. He has just really messy hair. I would say Felix is such a nervous wreck that even if he brushes his hair, he always messes it out right after unintentionally. They are probably also full of lices based on the conditions he's living in, but we don't need to think about that like lots of things about my world. Anyway, despite being annoying at times, he's sweetheart, and Leo and Francisca take him as their little brother. They basically unofficially adopted him, and Felix just wants to help anywhere he can, even though there isn't much things he can. finally, at last but not least, there's Leslie, the most known OC on my account. I made two animatics about him, or like he's part of the story. I was obsessed with drawing him in my early years of making this story, and he's probably the most written and complex character of mine. He also has the most outfits, which kinda suits his personality, but during making it I didn't know which outfit I should draw him, since he changes them throughout the story and different outfits mean different stages in his arc. So I decided to go with the one I would imagine he would have in the last part, meaning he got the purple coat from Leo. I mean, both of you totally seamlessly could afford wearing purple. Biggest issue I had with Leslie's different outfits was the fact that besides his workshop outfit, nowhere did it scream nor even hinted that he was alchemist, or at least in my opinion. I think Leslie would want to wear something not only practical but also fashionable. Maybe it's the Frenchness, or maybe it's just his preference. I think looking good on the outside makes out for his not so great behavior. Honestly, back when I was reading comments under my giveaway animatic, I was kind of worried about people's reaction when they find out that Leslie isn't really a good boy who did nothing wrong all that much. Sure, he got screwed a lot by life itself, but his actions in the story are hardly forgivable. But hey, they don't have to know just yet. Leslie is all about first good impression. He wants for people to let their guard down around him, which would help with anything he would want to pursue. Of course, he doesn't have the money for something someone would wear in court or anything very fancy. He'd just work with things he has. The high heels, of course, couldn't be missing. In the end, I'm happy with all the reference sheets I made. I'm still kinda disappointed that I haven't done side characters too, since they could really use it. But I don't know, maybe later or next year. But yeah, I think that's about it. If you'll be participating in our fight this year, come and say hi. I'll be putting my user down in the description, or you can send me yours in the comments. I'll be happy to check you out. Like I said, I love art fights so much. I can't wait to start attacking people as much as possible. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you want to see more of this talky drawing content, please let me know and I'll try to upload more since I finally graduated art school. With that being said, thank you so much for watching and I hope to see you on Art Fight. Have a great day or night and bye.